Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we are back with another episode of Hearthstone. So today we are gonna do basically just Hunter, then Priest, then we'll try either Rogue or somebody else. So let's start with Hunter. What we have a tall order in our quests. We may end up going 3 episodes, which is fine. Uh, There's probably not going to be a ton of grand tournament footage that I'm going to really get and put out there. Uh, Sadly, the list of things that I wanted to do and that are getting pushed further and further back and might never get done is growing. I know there was definitely games on that list that have been replaced by games on my Steam account because it makes more sense for me to focus on the games that are on my Steam account and have one organized place for them. Plus, the games on my Steam account kind of make more logical sense and tend to be newer than the ones I was going to do anyways. Alright, so this should work. So there's one of the things I wanted to do is do a dictionary of cards for Hearthstone. Darn it. Should have done misdirection. And that would be something that if I had time, there's the sentence, to get something like that done, it would have been nice. It would have given me the opportunity to do the grand tournament and go through every single card, which I will do a video where we go through every single card and look at it. But if I could possibly do both at the same time, do the dictionary of cards while we're looking at every single card, that would be great. Or possibly just do the dictionary cards, then merge them all together. I'm not sure I can really do that with YouTube setup. YouTube has changed a little bit too. They're doing some updates again, so no longer they say will videos get stuck at the 301 mark of the number of views while they're sitting there and validating how many what of those were actually fake views. But for me in particular, it doesn't really do a lot in my case, because I almost never have that many views. Alright. So if I kill this guy, he'll get more powerful. And that will probably take out at least one of these guys. 15 to 30, if we can keep this momentum going, it would be nice. We might win.
I wonder.
Watch the newest video, how you would know which is the newest video for Mirror's Edge Catalyst is probably almost impossible. But it does feel like it is going in a slightly different direction than what it was before. Let's see, do I want to keep a stealth going? Let's get a character out there. The world that Mirror's Edge 1 presented was a world where it was basically a futuristic China, and they really chickened out at the last second to actually just not call it China, but it was blatantly China. uh, uh, and so you're talking the whole country was just under surveillance, had become this whole modern dystopic society with very heavy rules. Like you weren't even legally allowed to wear colored clothing. It's just basically black and white, and every building is legally required to be painted like one of 5 colors. And so, I mean, was a lot implied in that if they have rules so stringent that you can't even paint a building the way you want to paint it, you have to assume that all the other rules are even more strict. But the new one has it more like the bad guy is going to be a corporate interest who's doing some kind of illegal research, and in the trailer, Faith, the main character, runs into what looks completely like a spy who's stealing data, and she just grabs the cell phone with the data and starts running. And I think that's probably going to be most of the entire story, is that she's just going to be chased by these corporate people who are working with the police, but it's questionable if it's even going to be set in the same city. It could be that they expand the world out and say, oh no, this is a different city, because at the end of the first game she kind of exposed some of the corruption in the city she was in, and there was actually some level of open politics that was gonna go about. So there was a small thought that if the right person had been elected, things might have changed, although the right person does get murdered early in the first game, which all this is spoilers for the Mirror's Edge first game. So she might be in a different city. It might be that, particularly if you're talking like China, it would totally make sense that like one city was used as the model to another city, and they all, but they definitely feel like they're gonna focus away from the government being the bad guy, which I guess they have to. I mean, they want, particularly now that China has lifted its ban for video game consoles, that is a whole new market. You want to see if you can get some sales in such a ridiculous way as best you can. Alright, let's play the priest. The whole problem with doing business with China, as any foreign company doing business with China, is that China, as more than most countries, although almost all countries do this, they favor their internal countries. So even though there's a lift on video game consoles being made and being sold in China, that doesn't mean that the Xbox and the PlayStation 4 is going to just immediately come flooding in and succeed. What it really means is they're going to try to more than likely favor that Chinese companies come out with their own system that is probably not going to ever be compatible with any other country, and they create their own industry to copy it, and then China is the center of basically copying things, and in a lot of ways it's arguably a utopia of copyright infringement, which might be the right way to go about it for a country, really. Uh, if America is the, if you could say America is the utopia of copyright enforcement, you can see where that has gotten us. It's allowed a lot of corporations to do a lot of dumb things where nothing ever becomes beneficial to the public, and instead a single corporation like Disney can just sell the same thing over and over again, things that were made by a human being 100 years ago who's long since been dead, but this corporation can still charge full price for it when
Is someone injured?
arguably you can say it should be that society should at this point have
Face the light.
benefited more from it. It's hard to understand, but imagine the Mona Lisa. Well, I don't know if it costs money to go to the museum that the Mona Lisa is to see it or not, but imagine the Mona Lisa was so copyrighted that anybody who ever tried to mention its name or show a picture of it or do anything was just immediately sued out of existence. So much so that the Mona Lisa is hardly ever even known. That's kind of what our copyright laws are getting us to. It's in America. It's just the things that people would say are great pieces of art that heavily influenced society, heavily influenced art, definitely, are going to end up getting locked away because some corporation wants to sell it to every single person at full price. That society won't benefit from it. And there certainly is a lot of that where art gets sold to private collectors and is never released or shown to anyone. And there's, I'm certain, a lot of art out there. Anyways, so how we got to there from Mirror's Edge is a little strange, but the main point is we can't really, at least companies think they can't really claim a country's bad. The only country that you can do something like that to is North Korea, and guess what? They're doing a new sequel to the game Homefront, where North Korea invades America. So Homefront Revolution is coming out, where North Korea succeeded in completely taking control of North America, and of course it's some fictional North Korea where their entire army is huge and fully equipped to the teeth. And that one's of course acceptable because of the laughability of it in most people's minds.
In the light's name.
Alright. Am I gonna be able to pull this off? I don't know. If he kills both of these guys, well, if he hits this guy and hits this guy, he'll kill him. But then I'll have a 6 to the face.
I wonder.
I kind of wonder about what's going to happen as China is trying to get away from a country that is very much focused on making cheap products to a country that's focused more on retail services. It could be a huge mistake. It really could, because
if I roll need?
As America went away from creating things, I mean, here's the rant you probably have heard, to consumerism. We definitely probably suffered for it. 'Cause nothing is made in America anymore, or very little. That's an exaggeration, of course, but
Well played.
Face the light.
so now we just consume things from other countries, and a lot of it is made in China. And if things stop getting made in China, they'll eventually go into to India, and maybe they'll eventually go into even the worst parts of like Africa and South America. But after that point, then there really is no more. There's nothing more to do, and there's no more countries you could go to.
Face the light.
So what do you do then? And that's all. Oops, I should have healed first, and then attacked. Oh well. So I imagine what they're gonna do is sit here and attack me with both of those. Also, that whole thought really gets thrown into a quagmire when you start thinking, well, eventually, the
Embrace the void.
the thing that's going to happen is automation is going to come about, and as automation comes about, then there won't be any real need for humans to be working in any of those factories. And even if things start becoming made in America, it'll just be because it's 100% automated, and there's literally no reason
For a little while,
to
big punch.
for it not to be made in America. And then you really get into the whole thought of like, well, now nobody has a job anymore for all those construction, for all those factory jobs. Let's see.
My shield for Argon!
Feel my pain.
And that really is the bigger problem. As automation happens, it's gonna more and more become that the tiniest of minorities, the owners of companies, the boss, the CEO, the stockholders, are going to be getting all the profit, and anybody who actually had any hand in controlling in actually making the product is going to long since been fired, and anyone who had a job in managing and in management of those employees is then immediately going to get fired. And so it's going to be, even the board of directors is just going to be sitting here doing almost nothing. There is always the argument for research and development, so there will be like some small research and development, and probably one guy for what used to be a million, who has to fix all who maintains and fixes the equipment, but then they'll just hire that out, so it'll be one company that fixes and maintains the equipment for 1,000 different companies. Because they'll stop breaking, and they've already got machines that will fix themselves to a certain extent. And who says you really have to do research and development? Eventually complacency will set in, and people will just say, well, you know what, we're not going to make a new iPhone or anything.
Well played.
We'll just keep making what we have, and that's what will be available. And since our competition has gotten as complacent as we have, we'll be fine with that. Let's see.
Where shall I strike?
Running a program.
So
Well fought. I concede.
it's definitely a scary thought, and all along as that's happening, since all those people lost their jobs, you have to assume that things will become more and more expensive, so that only the rich can really afford it, and they become the target people to sell to, and the people without jobs won't have the money to spend on it. I mean, and it really does get to this point. It's like they kind of just want at a certain point they don't think about it, but when they think about it, the only answer they can say is, well, I guess we kind of want them just the poor people just to starve to death and die. Is really the only solution. Rich people who would fire all their employees and work to create a society where all the corporations fire all their employees really want to do. And of course that's not going to work. But the biggest lie you'll ever see is that rich people know money and know economics. It's
Doomhammer.
I'd say the biggest lie is that rich people know economics, and the second biggest lie is that poor people know economics. The truth is nobody really knows, because it's all speculative and just mostly random. But yeah, if there was only millionaires in the world, then the price of the bread would go up and up. But there will never only be millionaires. There will always be poor, and the poor now is definitely not the United States is not usually as bad as the poor of maybe 400 years ago, where, I mean, in Britain they had debtors' prisons, so if you owed people money you get thrown in jail. At least we got rid of that.
Back to work.
Although arguably it may still be possible through some loophole. But then also, just like 200 years ago, there was some very unique things that sneakily would happen, and you'll never see it written or any evidence for it. But people who were poor, people who were just undesirable in society altogether, would just sneakily get murdered. Even like 50, 70, 80 years ago, if you live far enough in the outside the city, you can get away with it, and
The
particularly
elements will destroy you.
if
May my
nobody's
ancestors
really looking and nobody really cares. And you can say they just ran off. Records weren't kept very specifically, intentionally in some ways. So there's a uncountable number of people who were in debt to the wrong person, or just irritated their society, and they just got eliminated. And it almost could be argued as an act of mercy, instead of them just being creating more and more miserable situations like we do now, where it's just, if you are undesirable, you can be homeless, you can live on the street
No
for
problem.
decades
Job done.
and be in pain and be ill. Uh, it's almost an act of mercy to just shoot them in the head quickly than it is to make somebody suffer in a situation that they have no chance of ever getting out of. At least it could be argued that.
Battle detected.
Alright, so if this guy kills this guy, give it damage maybe this. Give it damage maybe this.
Well played. No problem. Job done.
In turn. So now that's... How's he gonna defeat this? What's he gonna do? More and more recently, I've started to think about how it really is still far too much in the United States of society that where if you don't fit in, if you don't play along, if you don't mingle well,
There is little time.
you can easily have your life ruined. And it's sad, but we tell kids things like they should be independent and they should be themselves, but the real truth of it is they shouldn't. They absolutely should not. They should totally 100%
Well played.
emulate everybody around them and be
Battle
as
commencing.
quote-unquote normal as possible. Because society does not reward unique individuals anywhere as much as it punishes them in the United States. You do have celebrities, but really celebrities in a lot of ways are just idealized people who fall into a role and idealized versions of people that other people feel they are similar to. Very few celebrities are anyways, my point I've made. It's just
Well played.
so we gotta kill this. And best way to do that is just do this. Do this.
Battle commencing.
And win. So that's another victory. Let's go back to Hunter and keep working. How many games have I played? Like 3? It'd be nice if I could get one of these working. I'm certainly recording this in a strange fashion because I'm going through all 3 of the quests, which means pretty much if I, in the next episode, which we'll almost certainly have, if I don't get any of the quests done, we're not going to really see any success. But it doesn't
Alexa
matter.
versus
What's the
Pro.
point of me showing people that, oh yeah, I got the gold. I'm not gonna spend the gold until the grand tournament comes out. Then there will be a separate video for that that will definitely come out earlier than this video comes out. It would be nice for recording purposes if I could, at a certain point, just stop recording Hearthstone and come back and say I'll record more Hearthstone later. But the quest system does not allow for that. If I could say, alright, the grand tournament's coming out, so I'll stop recording and just air everything that I have recorded up to this point. And then I'll do the grand tournament, then I'll start recording again, and by me starting the recording again, I'll be able to catch back up and end up a month or two ahead again. And there's really no way to do that. I could air less. I could say, gee, that was a dumb choice. That was a dumb choice on this part. Let's see, whenever your hero is attacked, let's try misdirection, and this, and in there. Really? Darn it. I don't understand what he's shooting for here. Seems to have made a lot of mistakes, this guy. Maybe he hasn't made any mistakes. Maybe I'm just foolish. It's definitely a possibility. You know what I would really like is a clone of myself. Well, that was a waste of misdirection there. If I had a clone of myself, then I could do twice as many videos, and I think that would be pretty cool. Right. We do this. And that allows us this, and end the turn. If he could do just 1 damage to all my characters. Probably shouldn't have done explosive trap. Should have done 2 to the face. Total waste there. I think I've got him. Great.
My fire
Ragnaros, I don't think it's gonna save him. I want Ragnaros here to hit my. Yep. And so we can do this. We can silence this guy. Attack here. Great. It feels like we haven't been going that long, so I'll do one more game and then we'll call it. So let's warrior, play one more warrior. We'll almost certainly lose. I think next episode we will focus. It's the 3rd episode. Do I want to go a 4th episode? Honestly, I am just talked out a lot of times after 2 episodes, and then I just get into talking about a lot of stuff. I wish I had more comments and prompts, like questions.
Your soul
It
shall be
would
mine.
be very helpful if anybody who watches my videos just said, you know what, put questions in the comments, particularly of Hearthstone, and I will answer them. Like, stupid things I don't even know about. Because you can prompt me to go learn something new, or you could prompt me to start talking about something that it may not occur to me to talk about at all. So there's definitely a lot of stuff I just don't think about talking about.
It's time for a little blood.
I feel that if I had prompting, I would. Like, just simple things too. It doesn't even have to be complicated. But it could be super complicated. It could be, what's your favorite pizza, which is about as simple as you could get
Battle detected.
as far as questions, and or it could be something super complicated, like, what do you think about the Kepler 452b being discovered? And I did watch Scott Manley's video on that, and part of the problem with it is we need a lot more information. The Kepler telescope, which is why it's named Kepler 452, is basically watching for spots around suns. And so when it sees a spot around the sun that seems like it's in a stable orbit, we feel relatively certain that we found the same planet, a planet in orbit, and it's the same one versus all the other spots around the sun, which would be different planets, or something, whether you call it a planet or an asteroid or whatever it is. And that's basically all we've seen of that thing is the spot. Not an actual, like, telescope view of what the planet looks like or anything similar. I'm not gonna attack. Just gonna end my turn. And so we don't have a ton of knowledge about it. We just was able to figure out how far it was from its sun and how big we think it is. And a lot of it is just how we think it is. It's 10% bigger, about. Of course, it wouldn't exactly be 10% bigger than our planet. No, that's wrong. It's about 60% bigger than our planet, and the sun it's around is 10% hotter, heavier, so probably 10% hotter, and depending on the atmosphere, it would probably be a decent guess, in my personal opinion, that the planet is going to be 10% hotter. So, if you're having 100 degree, 110 degree summer days, imagine 120 20-degree day. And imagine that that is going to be very consistent, that even in the winter,
Battle detected.
it's going to be 10 degrees hotter. So, in that whole system, you're going to you're gonna be hot. It is 60% bigger, which does
We must
give you
cleanse
the hope for
sun well.
more stuff being on it. But remember that Earth is just covered in water. Just absolutely covered in water. And like 80% of our planet is covered in water. So if 60% bigger planet has even more water than us, there may just be tiny islands. There may be no islands easily. There could be no land above sea level
Battle
whatsoever
commencing.
on the planet. It could be completely in one giant ocean. Or it could be, like we have seen in many of our own planets in the solar system, that the atmosphere and gravity did not have enough pull to keep the water in the atmosphere, and thus it's a desert planet. This is what happened to Venus, according to Scott Manley. Is that
Handle it!
it just didn't have enough gravity to hold its atmosphere into it, so to hold the water in, so all of its water is now kind of in a cloud outside the atmosphere and just leaked out. In fact, it could be theoretically possible that the reason why our planet has so much water is because it just grabbed all the water that was floating around from all the other planets losing it. But that's pure speculation. The other problem is that even if there was life on Kepler 452b, there's two major other problems. It's like 1,000 light years away from us, so even if we could travel at the speed of light, it would take 1,000 years to get there. You're talking 10 plus generations of people living on ships to get there. And because it's 60% bigger, we could possibly land on it and not crash and die in the landing process. Possibly we could do that, but it's unlikely we could get back off the planet. Which also means if there's life already there, it may very well be that they would never be able to get off the planet at all. Just zero chance whatsoever, because it's just gravity so heavy. Where Earth is kind of lucky that we ever got off the planet. And it would be an interesting writing prompt if we did find life on that planet, and it was advanced life that could see us and even communicate with us. But how they would do that over thousands of years, I don't know. They still very well may not be able to get off the planet, and it could be a situation where there are a bunch of planets in the solar system where life evolves and it becomes very advanced, but it's just too heavy. You're just stuck there. So you're looking through your telescope, you're seeing other planets, you're seeing other species, and you have this weird, almost romantic relationship with them where you're sending out messages saying, "Hi, how are you? This is great," but it's just all you can do is send letters and messages in the bottle. You can never reach them. You can never interact with them. And you may even look in your telescope and see other people flying by, and they may say, "Well, we can't get to your planet. We can't land." And so that would be kind of an interesting writing prompt. Anyways, that's it for this episode. I think what I'm going to do is take a little bit of a break, and I'm going to see if I can get this up to like 3 or 4 victories, probably 4. Maybe even get this one up to 4 victories before we record the last episode in this recording session. Just because I don't feel like playing for a little bit, and I think that might make for a better experience. Anyways, that's it for this episode. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment if you want to, and watch every second of my videos. All that helps out. If you want to support me, you can click on my name, Rydo. On the right will be a blue button that says support this channel. Click it and make a donation. If you want to friend and follow me on basically any social media, there's a whole bunch of links down below. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.